And we have an amazing guest featuring Miles Clark, COO and Chief Med Tech Officer at Primal Medical. Miles, introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for your time. I'm Miles Clark. I'm COO at Primal Medical, and also I source and curate all of the new medical tech. So we'll have a lot of fun things to talk about.
Awesome. Yeah, and guys, these masterminds are supposed to be fun, informative, engaging, right? So, what I typically like to do, and this is from leading masterminds, in the real estate industry for almost a decade. Typically, I like to open up the first few minutes to shares and wins or testimonies, anything of, I don't know what your background is, and so obviously you would have to unmute yourself and tell us a little about yourself. Last week, it was our very first one, so I kind of started it with everybody. But um, yeah, is there anybody that has something to share? Maybe your background, maybe how you're either coming from the Primal Medical side or perhaps the X3 side, and how that's kind of transformed your life.
I can chime
Grant.
in if you like, Marcus.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you for introducing yourself.
How you all doing? I'm Grant,
Hey,
Pleasure to
Grant, where are
meet
you
you,
from?
sir.
Pittsburgh, although I'm currently
Pittsburgh
on vacation in Florida.
Steelers.
Yeah,
Steel City,
baby,
Steel
having a good
Curd.
year.
They are, man. I love it.
So far, so good. Anyway, I am 60 years old. About 4 years ago, I had some friends who had bought into an OsteoStrong franchise here, and that's how I encountered Dr. Jaquish. And my wife and I downsized that year. Our kids are all grown. We moved to a smaller house. So I no longer have my basement. No longer had any equipment, no place to put it. We have a loft in the new townhouse, but the wife said, "You ain't bringing all that equipment and cluttering our loft with that stuff." So I needed a new solution, and hence X3 came into my life. Yeah, and it's been great. I mean, I had an uncle when I was even like back to middle school, an uncle that was a gym teacher and football coach, and he bought me and my brothers, our first weight set. So I've always maintained some degree of fitness, but never nuts about it. I mean, I just always lifted to stay fit. Um, but this X3 has been great because it's simple. It all fits in a drawer, doesn't clutter the new townhouse, and I'm as fit as I ever was, really, even at age 60. So that's my positive testimony for X3.
Grant, that's amazing. Amazing testimony. And I can agree. I can actually I relate to you because my introduction was with football in the weight room. And I've gone through all of the exercise equipment, from the barbells to the kettlebells to the dumbbells to TRX suspension training, everything.
Oh, I had a
And
Bowflex in the basement. You remember those things?
I
Oh
remember the
yeah.
Bowflex days, the
They
info
were
commercials.
variable resistance, but man, they were big and gaudy.
Oh man. Yeah, I mean, in the convenience and the what I love most about the X3 is that you're in and out. It's so easy on your joints and your tendons, and I feel like there's little, if any, risk for injury, no matter where you are at in your fitness regime. And there's no ceiling because you can get stronger and stronger and stronger. And there's so many different techniques or different ways to use it. I know, Miles, you've been telling me some cool ways that you've been using outside of, like, out of the ordinary, outside the box, which is pretty cool.
Uh-oh. Don't tell anybody.
Uh-oh. Don't tell anybody. But yeah, no, I can agree with you. That's awesome, Grant. Is there anyone else that'd like to share? Awesome. Do you guys want to get right into it? Miles, we can get right into it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the future. What's happening right now at Prime Medical?
Yeah, so I mean, I've been fortunate enough to work in the new to market medical technology business for almost 10 years now, and new to market medical tech that came, we would do clinical studies on it. So I've got a good network, where I get to hear and feel what's new and what's upcoming. And so one of the ideas with Primal originally, when John came, and he wanted to make something with modern medicine, right, with doctors that are kind of forward thinking. And our idea was to bring everything under one roof. And so most of what people want is either muscles, fat, or sex. And we definitely have other categories like recovery and cognition and sleep. But definitely those are the top subjects. So I kind of just picked those out, that we could talk about. What is, I think, worth listening to. So when you go around these big conferences like A4M or the biohacking conference, definitely what I've noticed is the majority of the products maybe barely move the needle, right? They're just negligible benefits, or maybe potentially not benefits. And so definitely throughout my career, looking for good med tech to bring to doctors and hospitals and now my own business was something that really moved the needle, right? Whether it was in symptoms or in diagnostics, right? So I could prove it on the blood test, or I could prove it with the patients, like I feel, significantly better. And so that was kind of our guiding light, is, as far as what we were selecting. And so with Primal, of course, there's as I got to know John, I didn't know the X3 bar at all. I was introduced to John, and we started the business as that. So as I got to know the X3 bar, obviously in his philosophy, the X3 bar gave me gains faster than anything I've ever done, and that gave me the encouragement to keep going. So I definitely, that simple variable resistance technology, I think it's just a very strong base, right? And so John told me his philosophy of how to gain musculature. So I'll just go over, building muscle and what medical tech can do right now, and then we'll move into fat and sex. And so what John's philosophy was kind of five-fold, which obviously I absolutely agree with. And then maybe we've added peptides on top of that. But he was obviously variable resistance is groundbreaking for many reasons. Everyone here on the phone knows that. High animal protein diet or 100% animal protein diet, as John advocates. There's doctors that I've worked with, I've had in my clinics, and I have a small chain of clinics, so I've been able to work in wellness for many years, directly with patients. But most of the modern doctors, or what I say doctors, that are, let's say, less than 55 years old, will all agree that, the simple carbohydrates, the meats and stuff, are not the ones that are dangerous. It's the complex carbohydrates, the ones that actually embed in the arterial wall and can't be cleared out with something like a statin. So being bad is definitely not in medicine anymore. So it's just really kind of those legacy old doctors that think meat is bad and grains are good for some reason. So the third thing John believes in, or that definitely opened my eyes to, is stretching. So he believes that you should stretch the muscle that you worked out rigorously post workout, and that's to add blood flow, bring it to the fiber. And of course, most of this stuff is to bring the blood flow to the fiber to get the benefits of the workout that you just did. The other thing that he mentioned is a low dose daily vasodilator, right? So like a quarter dose of tadalafil, like a quarter dose of what like would be a sexual, like an erection support dose. And so that again just helps the blood flow. And then of course hormones. He's well known to have used hormones for many years because of an injury he had when he was a younger man. And hormones is, probably the strongest thing in the medical world for making a man feel better after age 40, giving you the energy, giving you libido, giving you the fast muscle recovery, giving you joint strength, and of course all the studies which goes along with OsteoStrong. After I think it's 9 months of use of testosterone, you get significant bone health improvement. So every doctor I've known prior to working with John and the past 10 years have all said that testosterone, I want to get my patients to a comfortable level symptomatically. Typically doctors don't pay so much attention to numbers as much as patients do, but to get the patient to where they're non-symptomatic, and the risk is so low that most doctors don't have a problem prescribing it, even though for no good reason. It's a controlled 3 substance in the United States, which we don't agree with, but nonetheless it is. So yeah, testosterone can't be underlooked. And so I'll just kind of go into that because that's where I think Primal first got its first footing. We became one of the first distributors of the new oral testosterone, and we've had a lot of success with that because it doesn't have the symptoms that you associate with other forms of TRT. And I'll just go over those real quickly. So, and then I'll break the myth that it's really not magical. It's frankly mechanical. And so with testosterone, first we had the injections, the T-cypionate, and we had pellets, and we had creams. So the pellets and the T-cypionate, the problem there is that you're dosing yourself, you're overloading your dose. So essentially, you're high at night, and the body has a circadian rhythm where you're high in your testosterone as a man in the morning, and you taper off all during the day, and you're really low at night. That's why you get quote unquote morning wood, all right? You have your strongest, sexual libido. Let's say when you wake up, that's because you have the highest amount of testosterone. So if you superload the body with testosterone with biweekly, weekly, monthly, bi-monthly injections, and or you know 3 times yearly or twice yearly pellets, you're high at night most of the time, and that utterly, frankly freaks the brain out, and that signals the body to elevate E and stop all T production. And so when that happens, that's all the risk and side effects that we are familiar with. So destroying the T means you lose your libido, you lose your energy, you lose your ability to recover, you lose your muscle mass, you lose your height. Um, and of course, elevating E's, you get the mood swings, you get the gynecomastia, you get, or of course, you get the testicular atrophy with losing your hormone function. So all of those come from the fact that you're high at night. And so then they tried to come out with creams to solve this problem, so you could get daily dosing, and that's really the key. But the creams didn't work so well for many reasons. How thick is the skin on the front side of your arm versus the back side of your arm? What's your definition of a dime size versus a nickel size? What the doctor says. How thick is that nickel size? And then, of course, there was always the problems of your family members touching your arm, and then your wife and children have elevated testosterone. It was very common with transdermal creams. So, of course, there was ways to get around that, but they were just kind of sloppy, and no one ever really liked them. And they just didn't have the bioavailability of an injection. So John had discovered on his own, before we came to know each other, about doing daily low dose injections, subcutaneous, early in the morning, and that seemed to solve the problem. That's the real magic. Is it's mechanical. It's not chemical, right? So as long as you have low dose in the morning of testosterone, you will avoid all the side effects that we discussed. Now there is a hidden side effect with T-cypionate. Is it in 60%, 65% of patients, it elevates hematocrit or blood thickening. So that's kind of a little dirty secret that most doctors don't tell you. They just monitor it. But watch it yourself if you're on T-cypionate, because most people will elevate their blood thickness, which oftentimes can just be managed with donating blood. But nonetheless, it's just another side effect that why have it if you don't need it. So with daily low dose in the morning with testosterone, whether it's T-cypionate sub-Q or with Kaisertrex, this new oral testosterone that we've had a lot of success with, that pretty much solves all the problems. Now, of course, Kaisertrex is more convenient because it's a pill, you swallow it. Some of the inconvenience I would say is our patients that do intermittent fasting don't particularly like it because you have to consume a decent amount of fatty food or fatty molecules for this to work properly. And the reason we do that is because earlier forms of oral testosterone had a methylated coating that was toxic in like 25% of the population, so that didn't work. And this new FDA approved form that only came out like 16 months ago, it is absorbed through the lymphatic system, so it kind of piggybacks on fatty molecules, bypasses the small intestine, and then is absorbed through the lymphatic system. So that's why we see no issues with liver, gut, or kidney with this particular oral form. Another, I guess, if I'm going to nitpick, another thing that I don't particularly like about the oral is the bioavailability is pretty low. So you're taking kind of a high amount of dosing to get your daily dose. But that being said, a lot of patients prefer taking, large, vitamin-sized pill versus injection. So tit for tat, I guess there. I'm going to review some of the other testosterone technologies. Now, a lot of people, for good reason, if they don't need to replace testosterone or they're fearful of the side effects or their family planning, they'll want to go for one of the testosterone boosters. The one that's, I think, very well known that we do have success with that's natural is the Tom Kata Lee. It's a root from Malaysia. A little bit expensive, but it definitely works. Then I would say I'm kind of stair stepping up. Then the next level I would say is enclomiphene, or originally it was clomiphene, but now they've kind of come out with an enclomiphene, which is a little bit better. And that works well in 30-40% of patients. I mean, it will boost testosterone. It doesn't work in everybody. Now, if you want to take the ultimate level of naturally boosting testosterone, so not replacement again, just increasing our own testicular function, is HCG. There's nothing better than that. And that's what we use for patients that have testicular atrophy. I mean, it's within 2, 3, 4 weeks, patients' testicles will come back to normal size with HCG injections. And it's a sub-Q injection. It's not going anywhere scary, right? You just put it into your belly. But that also increases testicular function for men that are family planning. So men with low sperm count and or older men that have young wives. The HCG is definitely popular for family planning. Now I'm going to move off testosterone into the peptide world, which is something that John now benefits from, and you'll see an article come out next week about one of those. But the growth hormone releasing hormone family of peptides, I will call them. Sermorelin was the original. Everybody knows it. It was great. What does it do? It essentially, all peptides are signaling molecules. Let me start with that. They're biologics classified by the FDA. They're not medicine. Every peptide that we could ever talk about is naturally occurring in your body right now. There's over 300,000 of them. They're signaling molecules. They signal the body to do a function. The most famous one, the oldest one, over 100 years old, is insulin that we've discovered and used. And every doctor you ever meet will tell you it saved more lives than probably anything except for penicillin, right? So I always like to say that about peptides to disarm people, because the government, for no good reason, maybe tries to vilify it a little bit. But every peptide you're ever going to name, BPC 157 included, is in your stomach right now or some part of your body. So that being said, the growth hormone releasing hormone family of peptides, essentially what they do is they stimulate more growth factor to be produced during your sleep cycle. And of course, growth factor gives you more muscle growth, faster repair. It also seems to really improve sleep. So patients get more restorative sleep, and it improves hair, skin, and nails. So prior to COVID, prior to GLP-1 and GLP-2, I had a wellness clinic, or still have it, in San Antonio, and we had medical weight loss, and we would run our female and male patients on Sermorelin, and we would get great results. Frankly, better results than GLP-1, GLP-2. Maybe not as fast, but overall better. Why did they like it? Because if you increase the metabolism, you burn fat and increase muscle tonus at the same time. So you didn't have muscle wasting in the patients. And of course, the women really love the hair, skin, and nails. They're like, "Oh my God, it looks incredible." The males were like, "Yeah, I guess my beard's growing faster." So they didn't really notice, and everybody definitely noticed the sleep. Now, we're many years later from Sermorelin, and it's gone through several new generations. There was the CJC and the Ipamorelin, and now we've kind of landed on the Tesamorelin. And the Ipamorelin still has a lot of beneficial factors. So we've made kind of our own special cocktail, which we think is the best bang for your buck, maybe besides hormone. Testosterone if you need it. If you don't need it, this is definitely the best bang for your buck. Do it in addition to hormones. Is we've mixed Tesamorelin, Ipamorelin, and mechano growth factor. So the Tesamorelin, Ipamorelin is for the muscle growth, burning visceral fat, and of course it does the sleep and the hair, skin, and nails. And then the mechano growth factor we added for recovery. So when you work out, you'll bounce back the next day faster. So that's one that we really like. That's our build and cut. Now our cut and tone is just the Tesamorelin and Ipamorelin. We pretty much made that mostly for our GLP-1, GLP-2 patients because, look, we the whole world wants GLP-1, GLP-2. They're going to get it. It's it's fast. Weight loss, why? I'm kind of bouncing around a little bit, but it's because it's an appetite suppressant. And so most of our doctors, all doctors I've talked to, a lot of them will now fire their patients if they don't follow the exercise program on GLP-1 or 2, because we will observe anywhere from 1/2 to 2/3 muscle waste and only 1/3 to 1/2 fat loss on a GLP-1 patient that sits on the couch and never works out. And so to counteract that, we've created the building or the cut and tone. So we advise our GLP-1, GLP-2 patients to take the cut and tone at the same time. And we advise them to wean off of the GLP-1 and GLP-2 as soon as possible, as soon as the wedding happens and they look great in the dress or whatever it is, because there's always an event that they want to rush to. Then move them off the GLP-1, keep them on the cut and tone, maybe the testosterone. I'll get the testosterone. I'll get that in a second. But back to the growth hormone producing hormones. Sermorelin, definitely great. It's just kind of the first generation, the ipamorelin and tesamorelin. Much better. CJC definitely was a good one, but it's so demonized by the government now that just no one will make it or talk about it. So we just kind of have to stop talking about it, unfortunately, even though it was good. Now there's another one that I've recently become pretty excited about, and I'll give you guys a sneak peek. This is the one that John's going to write about next week. Anyway, IGF-1, the most popular peptide in the Olympics, considered, I would say, the best pre-workout ever. The doctors have described it as skipping ahead of the line as far as getting the nutrition that you put into your stomach directly into your muscle. And so basically IGF, whatever's in your stomach, gets immediately pushed into your muscle fiber. And so there's a legend, which not to give it away, but hopefully we're going to prove. There's a legend in IGF that you can gain a pound of lean muscle overnight if done properly. Now with IGF, yeah, no, and so we're going to put that to the test. Now IGF does need precaution. It takes a very strict diet. Like if you don't have enough carbs, you will pass out. So as it's insulin-like growth factor, you need that. And of course, you need the protein in your stomach. So you need to have everything right, what you want in your stomach, not anything bad, because that's going to get pushed into the muscle fiber. And then you want to take it and immediately work out, or 10 minutes later work out for 2 hours, because it really only works for 2 hours. It's a very short window. And we advise only doing it or one vial, which if you do 10 units, you get 10 pre-workouts. So we only advise doing it once a quarter, 4 times a year, because there is the risk of messing your hormones up if you overdo it, right? So it's one of those ones that you can't take too much. And then the follistatin, which we don't have anyone who's ever used it. John hasn't used it. And John doesn't think he needs it yet, but it's one of those super cool ones that we just kind of had to have on there. So follistatin is for people who have reached the ultimate of their genetic capability, like you're an ultra competitive bodybuilder and you just can't go any further. You've hit a plateau and there's nothing you can do to get any better. Follistatin is what they go to, because it basically reprograms your genetics to reduce the amount of myostatin that you produce. And myostatin is the governor on how much muscle your frame will pack on. And with peptides, there's always a cool story about how they found them, how they discovered it. And with the follistatin, it was this blue cow in Belgium. You can look it up. And it's the most muscle-bound cow you've ever seen. And it does what every cow does. It walks around, eats grass, and sleeps in the shade. Like, it doesn't work out or anything, and it's just enormous. And so, of course, scientists were like, why is this going on? They studied it, and they found this peptide, follistatin, that inhibited the production of myostatin, and that's why the cow just grows muscle all the time. And so we have it. We actually don't have any patients on it. Our peptide manufacturer does use it, and he is enormous. Now I want to do one last thing. if the risk is too great for the reward, we don't want it. We will never do it. And so HGH is something you'll just never see us do, because human growth hormone opens the window for the production of bad cells. It opens the window too wide, right? So like IGF doesn't, because it's only 2 hours and it's only, you know, from gut to muscle fiber. Whereas the HGH has the potential, if you have like, you know, some little bit of cancer somewhere in your body that you don't know about, it could exacerbate it. And so it's just a risk that's not quite worth the reward for us. That being said, if you use it, most doctors would say remission after cancer is kind of their thumb to the wind, what they might say. That being said, we wouldn't do it because of the high risk factor. Okay, now I'm gonna move into fat loss, medical weight loss. High animal protein diet. I mean, it works. I don't know what to say. I mean, it really does. So doesn't cost a lot. Variable resistance, it works. You want to lose weight? I mean, it's still, those are the basics. GLP-1 and 2, and we have a 3, and they're about to come out with a 4. They essentially inhibit your appetite, right? You just don't want to eat no more. You're just not. It's not interesting. And so people lose weight fast. Now, the big cautionary tale, which I've already told, but I'm gonna say it again, is 1/2 to 2/3 muscle waste. That's where we get the phrase Ozempic face. Everyone's heard it. Everybody knows it. And so that's definitely a danger. So work out if you're on GLP-1, and or do a growth hormone producing hormone peptide, one of the flavors. So we at Primal, we just always just couple GLP-1 with the cut and tone peptide. Now, another fun peptide for weight loss, and I'm quoting John, it's his new favorite peptide, and he did that little video a couple weeks ago about it, is tesofensine. And as I said, there's always a cool story about how they discovered a peptide. So with this one, in Russia, and most peptide science comes out of Russia because they were bold enough to do it whenever we didn't, 30 years ago. Nonetheless, they observed that Russian chess masters that sat on their butt for hours on end and didn't really eat that well and drank vodka and smoked cigarettes all had very slender, lean bodies, right? They never gained weight. And there's definitely obesity in Russia, right? So it's not like, so there was definitely an anomaly. And so as they studied the Russian chess masters, they discovered a few peptides, which they've put together in a combination they now call tesofensine, that are associated with high cognitive function. And essentially, to just make it super simple, when you think a lot, you actually burn more calories. And I'm sure everyone on the phone, if you've had a day at work where you just have to like think very critically all day long and always be on point, at the end of the day, you're more tired than you were if you had like an easier day. And so you absolutely do burn calories with brain power. And so the tesofensine like 10 to 20% sharper, more focused. And it's one of those things that if you take note, you'll notice. But if you like forget about it, maybe you don't notice. But I definitely, when I started taking it, I would catch things that normally maybe it would have taken me a little longer to catch. And then you also, it burns visceral fat like crazy. So I definitely had the dad bod about 2 months ago, 3 months ago, with the love handles hanging over my belt and the belly. And it's all, I mean, it flew off with the tesofensine, as well as I'm doing the build and cut. I don't do any hormones because I don't need to, at least yet. But the tesofensine, it's another patient said it was like all the good of Adderall, none of the bad, or something like that. But anyway, it's a decent one. Sexual health, that's always fun to talk about. So everybody knows the vasodilators, the Cialis and Viagra, the tadalafil and sildenafil. there's definitely a large population of males that can't take that because of the cardiovascular risk. I know that I took like a quarter troche one time, and I felt completely flush, like I run a marathon. Now I do appreciate later in life a daily low dose in the morning, for wellness, for vascularity. But for sexual health, definitely men that there's lots of men that benefit from tadalafil and sildenafil. So that's not going anywhere, right? So that is definitely a med that's useful for erection support. Now the next ones I'm going to talk to, maybe you haven't heard of, or maybe you have, but they're a lot of fun. PT141, which I've given to plenty of my patients and gotten great testimonials. After hearing all the testimonials, we kind of came up with the idea that it makes you a sexual teenager again. And why do I say that? Because PT141 actually has three areas of benefit, of therapeutic benefit. One is it increases libido, like you want it, like you're hungry for sex, and so like you're a teenager. Second thing is pleasure sensation, improves pleasure sensation. It feels better. It feels great, like when you're a teenager, So maybe patients that have difficulty reaching ejaculation, this is definitely going to help. And then the third thing is it improves your stamina. You want to go again and again, like when you were a teenager. And the thing is it works for men and women. Actually, it was made for women first. And then eventually some man tried it and we're like, yeah, it works on me too. So PT141, I've heard, rodeo ride. Definitely for patients that have maybe need a little boost in the love life of the marriage. The next one is oxytocin, which is the social bonding, trusting, intimacy, affection peptide in the brain. And so people who have social anxiety, it's definitely used for those patients, but as well as anyone who's just nervous or awkward about their sexual health. So that's definitely a good one. HCG, which I mentioned earlier, I just put it in sex because for family planning, I mean, definitely for improving testicular function. We have at least 10 patients that they take HCG and they're pregnant or their partner is pregnant within 2 or 3 weeks. Like it really pumps it up. And then lastly, we're developing, and it'll come out in a few months, a premature ejaculation medication. It's probably the last sexual dysfunction that's totally demonized and still made fun of on TV and everywhere else you see, but it's the number one sexual dysfunction in men. Erectile dysfunction is actually the number 2 sexual dysfunction. So we've developed a med that will increase the latency, of the ejaculatory reflex, right? So we're seeing men. So there's now a clinical definition: 2 minutes or less from vaginal penetration is now considered premature ejaculation. So patients that are less than 2 minutes, we'll get them to like 7 minutes, 10 minutes. With foreplay, everything's normal again. So that will come around in a couple months. Now the last thing I'll mention on that is, of course, why wouldn't we put it all together? So we're coming out with a PT141 and oxytocin with tadalafil, or you can take the tadalafil out if you don't need it, which would, female patients would not particularly need that, or men that don't need erection support wouldn't really need that. So that'll be fun. We haven't come up with a good name yet. We've come up with a couple names, but I don't think they're very good. And then the last thing that I'll just mention, and I guess we'll take questions after here, is a lot of these medications we're working and soon to announce a really exciting nano sublingual gel delivery system. So look out for that. No more needles, maybe no more pills.
Miles, mind blowing. I'm gonna go back and watch this, and I'm gonna grab a bot to take notes for me. and summarize all these amazing diamonds that you just threw at us. I'm going to open it up to Q&A right now because I'm sure a lot of you have questions based on what you just listened to.
I got a question.
Yeah, Mark, go for it.
Yeah. Hey, Miles, can you talk to so a lot of people ask like, hey, I'm already on this type of testosterone. Can you add peptides to an already existing testosterone use? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So the good thing about peptides is they're naturally occurring into your body. It's really hard to mess up on peptides. So the threshold for overdose or side effect risk is like very, very low. So yeah, you can do multiple peptides. You can do peptides on testosterone, not a problem.
Awesome. Anybody have specific questions? Go ahead and unmute yourself, or you feel free to ask away in the chat feature. This is the time. Grant.
Question.
Hey, yes,
Cost
sir.
of these peptides, I was shocked at how high of a cost they were. And do we see that coming down at all? I mean, especially if somebody is interested in a couple of them at a time.
Yeah, no, I mean, we're definitely with volume, we'll get the price down. We do have high prices. All of our stuff's made in the United States with 99% purity. I mean, it's just one of those things. I'm actually going to get my medical writer to write an article about that. But peptides definitely have a reputation of bad quality. There's a very popular sports company. I don't want to name the name, but their last peptide supplier, they did a quality check, and it was like 7 or 8% peptide. So a lot of peptides are coming from China, India, Russia. So I just definitely Americans cost more. American rent costs more, so our prices are more, but we do certificate analysis on all of the batches. We maintain 99% purity. Our manufacturer sells to the federal government, to the Olympic Committee, to sheriff's departments, to major sports organizations. So we went on the side of the quality. That being said, can you find good quality at better prices? I'm sure you can. But we have a facility here in the United States, so we get to tour and know and be just totally assured of where it is. But all our Spearhead members they enjoy a 20% discount. We're happy to push out discounts as much as we can, and we will see some price drop as we ramp up membership. So
and then
and
one other quick question. Do you know
Yes, sir.
anything about, there was a product Dr. Jake Wish had recommended back maybe a year ago. I think more for recovery and stem cell growth and stuff like that called, I don't know how you pronounce it, but CERULE. It was called Stem Enhance Ultra, and it was a like a microalgae formulation. I'm guessing he'd recommend the peptides over that at this point, but
Yeah.
I don't know if you know anything about it.
Well, I have quite a long history working in regenerative medicine because I worked in biologics and devices, and not so much in medicine. I try to avoid medicine at all costs. Not to say that all medicine is bad. It is definitely a tool that doctors need to use. But biologics and devices always seem like the better way of medicine for me. But for exosome stem cells and amnion fluid, there's definitely some exciting stuff that can be done there. I've had a clinic for 8 years where we've done those therapies on our patients, incredible testimonials. I guess that's one of the things I didn't mention on the presentation earlier, but we are soon to introduce exosome products straight to our patients. So pretty much an exosome is the power of baby healing, right? So if you've ever seen a baby scratch its cheek and the next morning it's healed up because their growth factors are so powerful. And so wherever you put that growth factor, it does incredible healing. I always used to tell doctors it cures nothing, but it heals everything. So as far as stimulating your own stem cell production, I've definitely heard of nutrients and that kind of stuff. But now I'm curious. So if anything's going to stimulate your own body stem cell production, it would be a peptide, right? Because I mean that's what they do. They signal body function. So Now I'm curious, Grant. I'm going to ask my peptide scientist if there's any stem cell growth in stimulating peptides.
It's awesome. More questions, keep them coming.
And thank you for your membership, Grant. I recognize your name.
I have a question about tesofensine.
Yes, sir.
So I'm just wondering if you miss doses, do you get any discontinuation syndrome or withdrawal that you typically see with SSRIs or SNRIs?
What the peptide producer has told me is that the half-life is like 4 or 5 days on the tesofensine, so you can even skip days and not and still get relatively the same amount of therapeutic benefit. I've been pretty forgetful with my tesofensine, and I haven't noticed it at all. So I can't. I haven't had any. I've received no complaints or comments from patients, and I read all the doctor notes.
Can you remind
So
us what's
far,
the tesofensine? What is that?
tesofensine is the one that was discovered by in the Russian chess masters, right? So it increases cognitive function. It makes you sharper. I mean, it makes you more focused. Like
Okay.
you will notice you are smarter, and at the same time, it melts visceral fat, like because you're thinking
That was one of the
faster.
peptides you mentioned.
Yes, sir.
That
That was
sounds
You went
that
through
sounds
so
like
many, I
everybody
forget
should
what.
use that one.
yeah.
Wouldn't that be? That sounds like a great intro to the peptide world for most people.
Yeah, I mean, you think it makes you smarter and you lose weight at the same time while you
I
think.
mean, can you go wrong with that?
I do have a question. And there was a lot of information that you went over.
Yes, sir.
And some of these gentlemen kind of went over it, and specifically that I can't even pronounce it. That one medication or whatever you want to call it, the peptide that he just said that improves cognitive function. Is there a list or where you could buy it? Do you need a prescription? Those are some of the questions that I have. This is pretty new to me.
Yes, sir. So my understanding is there's like over 300,000 peptides in the body. We don't know nearly, we're just scratching the surface, right? So I would say probably science has maybe 50 that we have an idea about. That being said, I've kind of just curated I can't take everything at once, right? So I've just curated a list of about, I think I have 18 that we like, that we
Okay.
that we stand behind. And so on primalmedical.net, I've listed those out with a nice little description. Technically, peptides are classified as a biologic by the FDA. Look it up, fda.gov. So they don't need a prescription.
Better yet.
Yeah.
But
so, Miles, if anybody
people like to
wants
still talk to, but let me precaution with that with, still talk to your doctor, right? I mean, people can have a bad reaction on a vitamin C, so it's one of those things that,
Well, let's speak to that, Miles, because most doctors, I'm thinking, unless you're part of the Primal Medical team, won't have much understanding on the peptide world, right? I mean, that's
absolutely
seems to be like a. So I would say try to get a Primal Medical doctor, most likely.
Yeah, I mean, your average doctor out there in the street probably will know about Sermorelin, will definitely know about GLP-1, GLP-2, and then maybe they've heard about BPC 157, which is the famous healing one, which is part of the Wolverine stack with the article we had come out last time. But for the most part, yeah, doctors maybe have heard about them at the parties, but they don't practice medicine with them. Yeah, they're definitely new. And you know how things are. If something's new and incredible in medicine, it typically kind of starts at the top level, right? Before it filters down slowly to the public. And to be perfectly honest, most medicine for the United States is to take people from sick to normal. It's not to take them from normal to their best. And so Primal, we definitely are on the normal to best. So most of our patients are highly compliant, right? They do what doctor says and they get great results out of it. So yeah, so most of your doctors don't want to make you in your best health. They want to get you to where you're normal, not complaining.
Tom, go ahead and unmute yourself there.
Hey, real quick, hold 1 second, Marcus. I put
Yeah, you
my
bet.
email in the chat, so if somebody has
Yes.
questions about peptides or wants a purchase link, you don't have to be a member to get them, so they can go ahead and message me and email me, and we'll get them whatever they need.
Thanks, Mark. That's awesome. It's Mark, M-A-R-C, at primalmedical.net, everybody. Mark, M-A-R-C, at primalmedical.net. Go ahead, Tom.
Hey, Miles, I have a question for you about Kaisertrex.
Yes, sir.
So I'm a member of Primal Med. I'm going to start taking Kaisertrex. I think it arrives in Friday or Saturday this week.
Yes, sir.
Once my hormones reach a better level or optimal level, do I need to stay on Kaisertrex forever, or is it something I can switch to a peptide? And
Yeah, so men's testosterone typically, decreases over the years, after the age of whatever it is, 35, 40, depending on who you talk to. So the good thing about Kaisertrex is it doesn't damage what production you currently have, right? It doesn't hurt your current production. Most of the other testosterone therapies where you're high at night will damage your existing production. So that being said, when you're on Kaisertrex, you're going to be at a higher level. You're going to feel, if we do our job right, you're going to feel great. And if you come off of it, you'll go back to where you are now. You won't be worse, but it's definitely going to be a marketed difference, right? Now, you could try HCG instead of Kaisertrex and increase your own natural production. Some people like maybe to start with that instead. So there's definitely, it's one of those things that probably doctor would get you on levels. You'd feel great. And then maybe let's try to swap you off to HCG, get your blood work, see where you're at, see where your symptoms are. So, and the bottom line is you won't produce your levels high on your own. And one of the boosters will definitely help. So yeah, probably not. You probably would not want to come off it. I mean, it's one of those things where you're not trapped in it. Like Cypionate and the pellets kind of trap you, right? Because you've basically decimated whatever production you currently have once you go onto that therapy. So it's kind of a one-way street. Typically, it's actually not, but that's what most people understand. With the Kaisertrex, it's not a one-way street, but you won't be on easy street, or the highway or whatever. However the analogy works, if that makes sense.
yeah, and the peptide therapy that wouldn't replace the Kaisertrex, like say 3-4
Well, it
months.
could. See, that's the thing, is it could. So let's say we discontinue off of Kaisertrex. I don't know your numbers, but let's say your number was 300, and then Kaisertrex got you to 600, and you felt awesome.
So I'm like 450 now.
So far from 450 is excellent.
Yeah, I'm 65, and my testosterone's 450.
Yeah, and that's excellent for that age. I mean, really it is. So, because 350 is is kind of the beginning of normal, right? 350 to 450 is kind of where you see men over 40. Anyhow, that being said, so let's say that the Kaisertrex bumped you up to 200 or 300, and then we took you off of it and we put you on HCG. Maybe it's that your increased testicular function, because that's what HCG does. Is it makes your testicles work a lot more, right? It turns the pizza oven on a lot faster, and so now you'll be producing more testosterone, more sperm, more everything. And so, do we get you to those levels? Honestly, I don't know. I mean, I think it probably depends case to case, but we can monitor your blood.
Mm-hmm.
And we do have a handful of patients that don't want to do TRT at all. They want to just do the boosters, as long as they ride into the sunset. And I think a lot of that is because most people know it's a one-way street with the T-Cypionate and the pellets, right? You're going to destroy it forever. But for those patients that have done that, I'll tell everybody on the phone now, HCG will bring you back. So HCG therapy for anyone who's like, had testicular atrophy or has completely destroyed their own natural production off of TRT, then you can rehab on HCG. Or, so yeah, if you're 450 and you feel great at 650, I think there's definitely a case to be made for you to try HCG, swap over and try it.
All right, thanks.
Forgive my ignorance, Miles. What does HCG stand for?
Oh, it's a long one.
Well, you don't have to. It's just basically, yeah. I'm familiar with
Human
growth
chorionic
hormone.
Yeah, I can
What's
tell you
that,
the fun. I can
Mike?
tell you the fun fact is it was discovered. It comes from the urine of pregnant women. That
What?
it makes women incredibly more fertile, right? So it's used for family planning for men and women, and you know how it always works. Eventually, a man tried it, and it really worked well for men. Like our patients with testicular atrophy will bounce back in 2 to 3 weeks, like that fast. It's powerful stuff. It's like in clomiphene times 10,
Wow.
times 6, let's say.
Wow. I'm just taking notes on this. And it'll naturally help you get back to your it'll boost your testosterone level as well. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so it directly increases testicular function. So the testicles are an organ. They produce testosterone and sperm, right? And so you just turn that pizza oven up. You turn it back to like when you were 20 years old. Young, dumb, and full of cum. Well, now you're smart and full of cum. Old,
So what?
smart, and full of cum.
I mean, so what's the price point on something like that for a maintenance
the
dose?
HCG is really reasonable too. I think it was like 175 or 200, and that gets you like that brings them back to life. That's
And then
that
you would
one.
take that ongoing.
We've never had anyone take more than 2. To be honest
All you
with
need
you.
is 2, and then how do you keep
I
that
don't
up
even.
at that point?
I would say most people just take 1 actually. Well, the patients I'm talking, patients with testicular atrophy or damage from too much TRT, 1 or 2 vials usually is 1, and they're back. Or family planning, men that want to have children for some reason are not getting their lady pregnant. 1 vial typically, 2 or 3 weeks later, they don't even finish the vial. Ladies, job's done. So yeah, it definitely does that. Now for patients that want to do it ongoing to maintain a high testosterone naturally, here, let me look at the dosing real quick.
Like I'd be just curious, like what's the advantages and disadvantages of doing something like that versus doing the oral ongoing?
Well, the HCG's a subcutaneous needle, so a lot of people don't like that.
Okay.
Oral's oral, right?
Hey, Miles,
And I don't think we can nanoparticleize HCG, so I don't know if we'll ever be able to make it into a sublingual. Yes, sir.
what I've noticed in talking to guys and looking at their blood work and like, the biggest bang for the buck I've seen is in testosterone, like money wise,
Yeah,
as far as cost. Like it seems to be a lot less money than peptides to get themselves to that, let's say, an optimal level where they're happy mentally, physically, body's working. I've noticed the biggest bang for the buck is in testosterone, and people layer in peptides based on what they're looking for. Like I want to work on whether it's HCG or the cognitive function, sexual function. They just kind of add in the different parts. But really, I don't know if you can talk to the cost of those things, but that's
I
what
mean,
I
that
feel.
definitely makes sense because testosterone, you're replacing it, right? Like you have it that next minute, right? It's in you. Whereas the stimulators, you're telling your body to then now start making it, right? So it's delayed reaction. It's not, maybe it doesn't work as well. But yeah, you replace the testosterone with any type of TRT, and you feel better just immediately. So we're talking about pricing for TRT.
Well, I noticed that the price, like even just pricing for TRT, is less than peptides, and it's
Well,
already.
yeah, but there's only one peptide, I guess, that we've been talking about that's going to help your testicular function, and it's pretty well. It's pretty. Hold on, where is my? Got everything open.
It's easy to travel with, right? Like you go on a plane, you take the pills with you. Where HCG, I think you
Yeah.
have to have it
Portability.
refrigerated and
Yeah,
you kind of.
HCG. One vial is about 3 weeks of dosing, and we retail it for 175. So our patients get a discount. Oftentimes, it'll take it down to 140. I mean, it's a pretty reasonable. I mean, it's one of the better priced peptides, I'll admit.
Yeah, it
And
is.
so is the IGF's really well priced too. It's $200, and with the discount, you get 160. And
For the IGF.
anyone on this call, you get 20% off any of our peptides. Just ask Mark; he'll send you a code.
Yeah. Email Mark at Primal.
You got it.
Mark at primalmedical.net. Remember, it's a C, not a K.
Yeah, so I
Awesome,
definitely think
guys.
the best bang for the buck of all the peptides is probably the IGF and the HCG. The
And what was
DSIP,
the one for the brain that
the
you were saying that we use
tesofensine.
tesofene?
Yeah, tesofensine. It's $350 for retail for a 30-day supply. So I mean, it's a little higher priced, $280 with a discount. Another good one. We're just talking fun now. DSIP. I think it's the one that maybe not talked about too much, but it's delta sleep inducing peptide. So it doesn't make you sleepy. It's not a tranquilizer, but when you do go to sleep, you rapidly go to REM sleep, to deep sleep. So you wake up feeling, like you slept like a bear. So it's good for people that have a hard time getting deep sleep, and or people who don't have a lot of hours for sleep, but they need good sleep. Like, I only got 5 hours. I need to be on my best. And the DSIP is $100, with the discount, of course. What is that? $80.
Amazing.
So that one I like. On the weekends, I'll
I
do
like
DSIP. I'll do the DSIP. But
I
anyway,
could
any more questions?
Miles, I could see eventually with all of these, like the love bomb, the one that simulates feels like you're smarter, like little small 1 minute or less videos over time, just kind of giving us
I
a
can see that.
description just over
I see
time,
that.
right? Like, because it's cool. I mean, I'm going to be rewatching this
Yeah, I mean,
just to take mental
they got
notes.
recovery ones. You got anti-anxiety. You've got a one that kills all bacteria. You got and initiates body responses to it. You got the hair, skin, and you got one just for hair, skin, and nails, which is pretty popular with the women. But yeah, no, I mean,
You got
peptides,
the love, you got the
the
love bomb.
love bomb, yeah, and that one we're gonna do. I have my first example. We're gonna do that in a sublingual, a nano gel. One squirt on the tongue, 30 seconds, swallow it. Then it's party time.
Party time. Take that with my wife.
And Miles, I got a question. Let's say you lived in Canada and can't get testosterone, and somebody's like in their 60s, athletic, but their body's just not recovering the way it used to. Like, would you do like a HCG with maybe like a BP 157 on top of that? Like, what would be your ultimate protocol for someone like that?
To be honest, I think Kaisertrex now distributes to Canada.
Cool.
I don't know if we do it,
Super
but
cool.
we can probably, because Canada's got different rules on that, right? So that with the socialized medicine, but if anywhere in
Well,
the
we'll see.
world,
Maybe they become the 51st state.
yeah,
Joking.
right, that'd be nice. But anywhere in the world, if you have T-cypionate, everyone has T-cypionate. Do daily low dose subcutaneous, right? So whatever your weekly supply is divided by 7, or what your monthly supply divided by 30, and then inject that sub-Q in the morning in the first 2 hours of waking, and you won't have any side effects, except for maybe the elevated hematocrit, because T-cypionate does do that. So that's that's the best way, that's the best free advice I could give any TRT members on the phone right here. But for Canadians, all of the peptides we can send to Canada. So no problems there. But yeah, for no good reason, testosterone is a controlled 3 medication in the United States. We got to deal with it. So
Thank you.
it is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. And Miles, thank you so much for this coming on this mastermind today. I mean, we're gonna have to have you back. Absolutely. 100%. And so
Yeah.
for everybody, just to let you know, I know we're getting past the hour here, and we want to try to keep it just around an hour. But if there's anything that comes out of this, go ahead and send Mark an email, mark@primalmedical.net. Feel free to obviously message me personally, and we can get to Miles with other questions that you have.
Thank
Sound
you
good?
guys for your time, and I'm happy to do it again. We can get more granular if we want.
Miles, thank you. Popping it up, man. That was incredible. Appreciate you. Awesome, everybody. Well, thank you for attending. Stay tuned next week. I'm going to be leading the mastermind next week. We're going to be focusing a little bit more on nutrition and just speaking to everybody's carnivore, animal-based, paleo, primal, keto, all the nutrition. We'll focus on what you're doing right now to get results, and we'll come together on the mastermind. Sound great?
Thank
See
you.
ya, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.